Welcome back to Outcoach Sports. I am here with Mr. McClain, and we're going to bring you into the NFL Week 1, Thursday night. Oh, man, I hope you got your fantasy teams all set up, and I hope you're ready.
You don't want to talk about my fantasy.
And then, on top of that, your micro bets and all of these, that seemed to be a new phenomenon and so forth. We're not going to get into that, but I'm just noticing a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of stuff with the NFL. That's what makes it the number one sport. That, and of course, worldwide is soccer. But that's another argument for another day. So we're going to talk about
Chiefs Ravens opening the year. You're looking at key games. You got to look at the Chiefs. I mean, it might be cliched is what they say. I don't care. It's Chiefs Ravens. You're looking at two of the top 4 or 5, wherever we want to put Jackson, quarterbacks in football.
Yeah.
Potentially an AFC championship. I know it's really early, but why don't we start there?
Exactly. And my thing is with the Chiefs, it's like, to me, they're the inverse of Baltimore. The regular season doesn't really matter as much for them as it does the other team. First of all, the Chiefs can go into the playoffs with a 9-8 record, and they still will make the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship. Baltimore, they cruise through the regular season usually, and then once they get in the playoffs, that's where all of the stuff falls apart. So in the game tonight, are they in Baltimore?
No, they're in Kansas City. It makes it hard. That crowd is
real hard.
Arrowhead is tough, but if I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, Detroit went into Arrowhead last year and beat them week 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Right. But see, that's why I'm kind of making that face, because it's hard to pick Kansas City at home. That sounds silly.
Right.
Especially early in the year.
But also, I don't think anybody expected Detroit to do what they did. Kansas City is ready for Baltimore tonight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, for once, I'm going to go against the grain. It's a different season. I think this is going to be a very interesting season because there's really 3 bad teams. The rest of the teams, they all going to be fighting for something. You know, there's levels here. I'm going to say Kansas City is going to eke one out. Let's just go with maybe 31-28, something like that. It'll start off slow, and then I think it'll just climax. It'll just go after halftime. They're just going to be going up and down on each other. That's how I see the game. How do you see it?
Okay, so I'm going to take the same route he did. I was curious to see what he said, if he was going to go, I'm thinking we're going to have a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I think that Baltimore's defense is better than Kansas City's, but I think Kansas City's defense, along with Steve Spagnuolo, do not get a lot of credit for what they actually do.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to these two offenses, if I can learn to talk, we'll get there.
That happens, folks.
These two offenses, I don't think it's going to matter.
No.
Again, you have 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in football. They're eager to get back out there. They're eager to play meaningful football. They're ready to go. I would love to take the Ravens. I don't have anything against the Chiefs. I've always kind of had a soft spot for Lamar Jackson. He's just been exciting, kind of a different. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I'm taking the Chiefs too. I think it's 34-31. You got to pick a different number. I mean, you can't be. We're not mathematicians here.
We don't do cut and paste here, so.
But I'm taking Kansas City just because of the home crowd ekes them out just a little bit more. But also, like you said, Kansas City can coast through the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also because we talked about this last week. Their division is terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
The Ravens can't afford to coast the regular season because they got to win enough games to get in. 9 wins will get you in, and will get you a home playoff game in the AFC West.
And see, Kansas City. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but Kansas City is on a different level now. You have multiple Super Bowls, so it's like
we know how to do it, right?
Exactly.
It was kind of like when LeBron, Jordan, Kobe,
hell, Brady,
right? You look at these teams who, when LeBron's second stint in Cleveland is a good example of where he knew he wins 45 games, he gets into the playoffs. He didn't care what seed he was.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what to do when he got there. That's kind of where the Chiefs are at.
Exactly.
Mahomes knows, okay, how many games do I need to win in my division to get to get in as the AFC champion, AFC West champion, and then be in the playoffs.
Exactly.
9 wins there's no guarantee that in the AFC North, 9 wins is even getting you in the playoffs.
I know. They're so deep over there.
So I think that although it is week 1, the Ravens are going to need more wins than the Chiefs. So I think tonight means more for the Ravens, but I still think the Chiefs pull it out.
So, one of the games I was going to focus on is the Friday night game. I mean, we already have a Friday. I mean, this is getting insane with the NFL with how they splitting up all of these days. I don't think it's good for them to do that. I really don't, because it's like, damn, you're going to be working, going out, and so forth, and then it's like, shit, there's a game coming
right,
on
but
tonight.
also, I get why they're doing it. I mean, I'm one of those people that on Friday nights I typically watch SmackDown, wrestling.
Uh-huh.
I'll turn on the football game.
Right.
But also, I don't want it every Friday night because I want to watch my wrestling.
Exactly.
But for week 1, it makes sense. But also, I don't know if tonight, I think, is still on NBC. Tomorrow night is not on NBC. It's on Peacock, which is NBC's streaming subscription partner. So.
Yeah, and you guys have to look out for that because there's a lot of streaming partners that they have now because, let's be honest, the stuff that me and McLean is doing on this channel and so forth, dude, 10 years from now, everybody's going to have a channel, because the mainstream...
That's where we're going. Technology is where we're headed, and people are going to be sitting here and
wiping it out.
Yeah.
And so to focus on the game, this is going to be more of a test for Philly. As weird as it sounds, I really believe Philly has to know who they are, where they are. I think Green Bay is in a good place because they're on that upward arc, but they're not at the top of that arc. So it's kind of, exactly, they have the hunger, the desire. I can see Green Bay coming out, they're in the catbird seat. They're just going to run their offense. They're going to see what Philly has on their offense. And I see this one as being another barn burner game, too.
Yeah.
They're in Brazil. Philadelphia player seems to be more...
acclimated is a word?
I don't want to say acclimated because it's the exact opposite. They have more angst because it's like they can't go out of their hotel. They feel like they're trapped. I just see Philadelphia, they can actually bomb out of this game. I actually see Green Bay putting up, they're going to get into the 30s. Maybe a 35-27 game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my opinion.
I don't know how long, do you know how long they have been in Brazil?
It's been like a week and a half.
So they've been down there for a week and a half?
Yeah.
So there's no jet lag or anything like that?
Exactly.
Okay, I didn't know because that would matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that out of the equation, I'm on the same lines with you as far as I think the Packers have more confidence than the Eagles.
Yeah.
They know
weird.
They know what they are.
Yeah.
They know, even with the only question mark, and I'll get there, but the Eagles don't quite know what they have. They lost Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Saquon. So they have new pieces. How do they fit those pieces? How do they feel, internally?
Mm-hmm.
The only question is, how does Jordan Love follow up last season?
Exactly. Did they lose their running back for the year? Because I heard Dillon is out for the year. Is he still with Green Bay or did he?
He's still with Green Bay. I don't know if he's out for the year. I
actually got a notification on that.
Hold on, folks.
Mind you, folks, we're gonna do a fact check
We're gonna do what we don't do often is look at our phone here. I apologize.
Because I have gotten a notification that
AJ Dillon is he's hits injured reserve on shocking day. Here. Packers losing running back A.J. Dillon to season-ending neck injury.
Wow.
It was a week ago. Shows you how much I'm not in the loop. I would have figured it out tomorrow night when I said, wait, where's Dillon?
Yeah.
And I was, I found him. Well, bleep.
But that doesn't change my prediction at all.
No, I think that the offense, they've had enough. Because we're forgetting, they still have Josh Jacobs.
Exactly.
Dillon's not the number one. As much as I like A.J. Dillon, he's a power back, third down kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Jacobs is going to fill in that Jones role. So it doesn't change my thoughts on it.
At all. I'll let you pick the next game.
Well, I don't know if there's 35 points. I don't know if the Eagles have 27.
That's right. You got to get your...
I'm going to bring it a little lower. I'm going to go like 27-20 or something. A little more the old school down a little bit.
Exactly. Okay.
I still have Green Bay, though. I just think there's more confidence there, and they're ready to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I'll let you pick the next game. What should we talk about?
So now moving on to the weekend games, I am going to differ. This is where I have an interesting game that I want to go Commanders, Buccaneers.
Okay.
I almost said Commanders, Cowboys. I don't know why.
They're on your mind.
But they're on upset alert this week, too. I think they have Cleveland. I think they do have Cleveland.
Man.
They have Cleveland.
Don't get me started on that one. We'll
We'll
talk
get
about
there.
that.
But and the only reason I'm choosing, two reasons I'm choosing Buccaneers Commanders. Number one, I'll be at Sunday's game in Tampa. If anybody's watching, come say hi. All our millions of viewers that we have.
Right.
We don't have millions of
Yeah.
viewers. Anyway, my
We have
real reason.
millions of viewers. Go for it.
My real reason is I'm excited to see what Jaden Daniels brings to that offense and to that team, not only from talent-wise but morality-wise, to make them believe.
Mm-hmm.
Belief is a huge thing along with talent, obviously, but if you have a ton of talent but no belief, I don't think it matters.
Exactly.
If you have talent and belief, I think you go from here to here, and I think Terry McLaurin is finally grateful to have a quarterback, but I'm excited to see what Jaden Daniels brings week one against the Buccaneers, and two, how does the Buccaneers offense look with Dave Canales taking the head coaching job in Carolina and Liam Cohen going in there being the offensive coordinator? How does Baker go from year one to year two and take that jump?
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Buccaneers winning at home just because even with Daniels, I don't think the Commanders are that good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Buccaneers go 11-6. And I think it's 24-17.
Okay. Now, my take on the game is Daniels, he's a kind of an X factor. And one of the reasons why I have him that because it's like you really haven't heard a lot about him in the preseason. You've heard everything about Caleb Williams. You heard everything about Bo Nix. You heard everything about every other quarterback but Jaden Daniels. And I think that's because he's one of the quiet ones. And I like that about him. You know, he can go out there and be a leader, do what he has to do. He doesn't need the spotlight. So, with that being said, if he's a pass-first rookie, and he's not looking to take off and run kind of like a RG3 and so forth.
Oh, we don't need another one of those, please.
But I tell you one thing, he was pretty damn phenomenal those first 8 games. It was like, God, what did they have here? But man, they played on that too much. So if he avoids that script and makes his own, the Commanders, they're not going to have a great year. They're not going to go out and be 11-6, but they could pull out 7-10, which would be a huge improvement. Be in games that they shouldn't be in,
right?
Which would be this one tonight. They will be in this game. They're going to lose late to the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers just have a better
experience and a better team, right?
But
being there is an achievement, and I think when it comes to the NFL, at least for me in all sports, not just the NFL, if your team sucks, but you have exciting young talent and something to look forward to, it makes them watchable.
Exactly.
Like, the Commanders sucked for as long as I can, but let's just pick the last 3, 4, 5 years. They haven't anybody worth exciting. You just don't, even if you're terrible, if you have an exciting player, you want to watch.
Exactly.
If you're terrible and you have no one exciting, you don't want to watch.
Exactly.
For example, Detroit Pistons. Before they had Cade Cunningham, they were just stuck in basketball purgatory. You didn't have any future. You had nothing. Now you have some excitement to look forward to. It just makes it interesting. The Commanders are in the same boat. They weren't any fun to watch. Now they have Jaden Daniels. Even if they don't win a lot of games, they will still be fun to watch, and that's a huge thing, at least for me. If your team is fun to watch, even if they suck, you're going to turn it on.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Any other Sunday games do you want to look at? Because that's a 4:30 Sunday game.
You mentioned it, Dallas and Cleveland, because I'm gonna tell you straight up, I can easily see Dallas getting smashed in that game.
Oh, I've got Cleveland winning the game.
Because
fuck Dallas.
He had to get that in.
I'm done.
So anyway, to the billions of folks out there, if Deshaun Watson, we said this last week, and I will reiterate this, if he can just be half of himself.
Of half of 2020, they're going to win a lot of football games. They're deep. If he can be 2020, holy shit, look out.
Cleveland is scary, folks. I mean, they have the offensive pieces. If Deshaun Watson can get this thing cooking, and the defense is pretty damn good. So, I see this as one of those games where Dallas is going to be like, what the hell just hit us?
I think they score 10 points and they get run out of the building like 30-10.
And I was about to say 31-13.
Okay, fair. They still smacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to all you Dallas fans out there, better luck next year. Well, what's your analysis?
And then before we move on to the Monday Nighter, because that's what we all want to talk about, another one, in-state rivalry, not really rivalry, but we're going to call it that, Dolphins-Jaguars. Could be an exciting game. You've got two new quarterbacks on two big contracts. I think the Dolphins win, but it'd be entertaining to see the Jaguars pull one out. We won't dwell too much on it, move on to the Monday Nighter, but I'd love to see the Jags pull that thing out.
And see, here's the thing. Dolphins have dynamic pieces, but their quarterback is systemic. And I feel like the Jaguars' quarterback Lawrence is more dynamic, and he works out
the pieces.
He doesn't have the pieces that he has Kirk, but Kirk
he has some pieces, but not
like
Jalen Waddle, not Tyreek Hill, right?
Exactly. And then you look at the running backs. I mean, hell, they got two solid running backs, so that's what's going to carry the Dolphins through. I see them winning big time, probably like I would say 35-20. You know.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars hang around for a little while. By the fourth quarter, it's pretty much over, unless something. You just never know. They're not that bad where it would be super shocking.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to the Monday night game, if you're good with that.
I'm good with it.
Speaking of, and I like that line you just said, and I'm gonna say it wrong because I don't quite exactly remember it word for word, but you said their offense is dynamic, but their quarterback is systemic.
Yes.
That sounds like Brock Purdy as well. Exactly. Dynamic pieces, but systemic quarterback.
Exactly.
It's just the Niners have a way better football team than the Dolphins.
Exactly.
But I am going to take the Jets. Everything I just said, I'm taking the Jets. They also have a better football team than a lot of people recognize because, let's be honest, after Rodgers got hurt last year, a lot of people turned it off. It was a fluke. Nobody watched the Jets after that, but they don't realize they had a top 10 defense.
I know.
And the pieces they have around now with Garrett Wilson. So
Breece Hall is back.
Right? People don't think about that. I think Rodgers is motivated, especially going into San Francisco where he wanted to get drafted in 2005. I think the Jets pull out, and it is not a barn burner because you've got, out of all the teams that we have talked about, minus the Ravens have a good defense. We already said in this game tonight it just doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. In this game, you have two good defenses, and I think it does matter. It brings the scoring down to, I don't know, 24-21 or something. It goes down to the last possession, and the Jets, Rodgers does what he's done. I don't care that he's 40. Mm-hmm. They pull out the game.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the exact same thing. It's going to be a dogfight until the end. And because Rodgers still has that electric arm. That is the one thing about Rodgers. And out of all of the quarterbacks that I've seen, he can put it wherever he needs to put it. Even better, and I'm sure y'all going to flame me in the comments, all 1 billion of you that's watching right now.
And millions!
Because it's like, even Dan Marino's arm is not like Aaron Rodgers' arm. There's a different vibe that comes off of Aaron Rodgers' arm than I've seen with Dan Marino. And Dan Marino has an electric arm, too.
I think that, and we can talk about this later, but out of all the quarterbacks in NFL history, I'm not saying that Rodgers is the greatest of all time. I'm not ever going to argue that. But I think he is the greatest talent at the quarterback position that this game has ever seen.
Arm-wise,
we're not talking about intangibles and footwork and everything. We're not talking about all that. We're talking about strictly talent-wise. He is, arm-wise, unbelievable.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, just watch some of the film on him and video, so I can get into the 22nd century here. It's like, you go back and you just watch some of his passes.
And you go, how did he make that throw? Nobody else could have made it.
Favre has a stronger arm, but Aaron Rodgers' arm is so electric where it's like, so precision. Oh, I'm going to hit this little dot right here. And he makes it seem so effortless.
He's pointing at a red light behind the camera, in case you're wondering.
Exactly. And it's like he could throw it right there, and it's like...
And it won't be, yeah. But I think the most, out of everything that we're going to see this week, I'm just I know that a lot of people out there too, and probably you are just excited to have meaningful football back.
Oh, absolutely.
I've had Jets-Niners on my schedule for 2.5 months, and I hope it lives up. That's all we can hope for, minus predictions, win, losses, all that crap. We want games to live up and be exciting, because that's what we want to sit down and watch.
Exactly. All right, we're going to get into the discussion of... I'm going to change the subject, and then we're going to go back to
football. We're going to go football, Kareem history segment, and then back to football.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're going to go Kareem, and then we'll be right back, folks.
It's a big Oscar, congratulations.
God, thanks, Jack.
Big win for you. What do you feel? Is this better than the days that you see?
Oh, this is great. It's great, Jack. Finally got it.
This is 11 years in coming, right?
A long time, Jack.
How do you feel?
Oh, I feel wonderful, Great victory. Had a great team game.
What about this team, Oscar? Is this a great ball club?
I think we're coming, Jack. First year I'm with the club. I think we're going to lose. Have to get much better. Great guy. Big fella.
Hey, Luke.
Big fella.
Luke, congratulations. Oscar just paid you a great compliment. You had a great series. Congratulations.
He was a big help.
He was a big help.
Listen, Oscar played a hell of a game today.
How about yourself? You played a great game. Congratulations on the MVP.
Thank you very much.
How about the way Oscar put this ball club together? Don't you think that the addition of Robertson at the last year put a great ball club together?
Well, in this last game, we weren't all together today. We were missing some of our offensive plays. He just came right in, made the big play, got the rebound, put the ball in the hoop, gave 3-point plays. He did everything.
Well, you had a great series. Oscar, this ball club has just about everything, doesn't it?
Well, we hope to get there, Jack. We're still improving. We're a young club except for myself and Boozer, but, we hope to be much better next season.
Oscar, you had a great series. I know you want to go over to your bench.
Yes,
congratulations. Lou, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back, folks. So, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he was with Milwaukee, he won a title with them in 1971, and the team that they won the title against, the Washington Bullets, believe it or not. The Bullets of the 70s basically went to 4 finals. They went against Milwaukee, they went against Seattle twice, and Golden State. And they got swept by Golden State, even though they was favored in that series.
I hate to cut you off, but one, you can see his age already. But also you can see, I'm willing to bet how young our viewership is out there.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of people, one, didn't even know the Washington Bullets were a thing. Also, you just mentioned Washington still exists per se, but they're the Wizards.
They're the Wizards, yes.
So 2 of the 4 teams, half the teams you just mentioned, don't even exist anymore. The Washington Bullets and the Seattle Supersonics.
Exactly.
Which Seattle, one day, you got a hockey team. I love the Kraken, by the way. We will eventually get you an NBA team because you deserve it. Anyway, sorry to cut you off. I had to throw that in there. Just
they're the Oklahoma City Thunder, by the way.
Right. Yep. They moved. Kevin Durant played in Seattle for 1 year, and then he shipped to, I don't know what you call that, Midwest, wherever. Anyway, I just had to point that out. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, the Bullets aren't even in existence anymore, and
only in throwbacks.
Neither are the Supersonics. So continue.
So basically, Kareem was drafted there. I believe he won the title in his rookie year, and they had Oscar Robertson. He is the point guard that averaged a triple-double in his career. And a lot of people don't realize that you always hear Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson has been, and of course Steph Curry has been the greatest point guards of all time. John Stockton is in there.
People leave out the Big O.
They leave him out because a lot of people didn't see him play.
Well, I think if you look at a lot of things, for example, one, the further and further we have gotten from even the 90s now, is there was 2 or 3 teams who were really good and then everybody else sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same way through the 80s and the 90s, and now you've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and everybody is competitive.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of people don't take into, just like Bill Russell. I don't think Bill Russell gets the credit he gets just because of the era he played in. Bob Cousy is another one. He played in the 50s, if I'm wrong. Nobody saw him play because it wasn't in color. So Oscar Robertson,
John Havlicek, even though he played a different position.
didn't Oscar Robertson, before he was in Milwaukee, play for like a really weird...
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, right. Not even, hasn't had a basketball team
That
in how
team
many...
went defunct, and then he went to Milwaukee.
How many years have they not had a basketball team for?
I mean, you're talking about 1969, I believe?
Right, so 55 years, Cincinnati. You would never imagine Cincinnati as being a city that would be able to support professional basketball.
Exactly.
Especially with Cleveland and, well, Indianapolis is not in Ohio,
And
but
Buffalo
it's right
had
there.
a team.
Buffalo, yeah.
Buffalo Braves.
Anyway, we're getting off topic. I'm getting off topic. I apologize. Continue.
And I'm old enough to remember when the Kings were in Kansas City and they moved to Sacramento. So, I mean, I got a lot of history.
Anyway, we'll go with the Kareem thing here. I'm getting off. It's my fault. I apologize.
No, that's good because I mean, at least you have a sense of history. So, like, I'll give you an example of what McClain is talking about, real quick. It's when he talked about Bill Russell. Bill Russell was just before I really got into watching basketball, so I just saw everything on highlights. All right, so. And you didn't see Jordan play live, right? Because he wasn't. Yeah.
No,
so,
I was born in his last championship in '98. So he retired. My first, and of course I have bias. That's why I love LeBron.
Right, because that's what you saw.
What my first basketball memory was his first NBA game. That's my first memory.
See, and see, with me, I grew up. Dr. J was the guy.
Right.
See, Dr. J was the guy, and then Magic came in the league, Bird came in the league. I watched their whole career. You know, I watched half of Dr. J's career, and that was the talk. Dr. J, Dr. J.
Right, and then it's hard for you to accept something new. Right.
Mm-hmm. So, getting back to Kareem, he was in Milwaukee for maybe about 6 seasons, and Oscar Robertson retired, and a couple other players left the team. And culturally, Kareem just wasn't feeling Milwaukee because he was into jazz music. He was eclectic. He liked being around that city. And a lot of the and according to him and other sites that I've seen and papers that I read and so forth, it was like when he wanted to hang out, people in Wisconsin wanted to go to the bar, have a beer and so forth. He wasn't into that, you know. When he listened to jazz, they kind of listen. They kind of listen to rock. Country.
We don't listen to jazz in Wisconsin. It's not a thing. We drink beer and we listen to country or rock music. We don't listen to jazz.
So Kareem, basically, he was born in New York. All right, he's Trinidadian, you know, from Trinidad, and I probably said that wrong, but flame me in the comments.
We apologize.
Yeah. So anyhow, he grew up in New York. And he traveled to LA a lot, and he had a house in DC. So, come the end of the 75 season, around thereabouts or whatever, I may be off by a year or two, he wanted to get out of Milwaukee. He was like, I am like so done with this place. And plus, they had their first losing season with him in the lineup. So, he gave a list of teams, and they tried to do all of this under the radar. Kareem had gotten injured. I believe Don Nelson, of all people, the former coach, but he was a player at this point. He was a forward, I believe, at that time. Yes. And he injured Kareem's hand. So he was out for a couple of weeks. So it was kind of easy for them. Wayne Embry was the GM for Milwaukee. His agent, Kareem's agent, called him and was like, hey, I want out of here, man. You know, I'm like done with this place. I can't take it anymore. And these are the teams that I want to go to. And of course, Milwaukee, they're not just going to be like, yeah, let's get him out of here. They did everything they could. They was willing to fire the coach. Wayne Embry was willing to fire himself. Whatever the problem is, dude, you're our franchise.
Right.
We don't want you to walk or whatever.
But the issue was not. It wasn't the organization. It was just.
He
the
just
city.
wasn't feeling it.
It was the city, and that's okay. Sometimes, I mean, I
mean, it's like you take a country boy and put him in the city. He's not going to be.
Right, I could never live in an apartment in Lower Manhattan. I couldn't do it.
So eventually, they contacted New York. New York was tied up with George McGinnis, and George McGinnis basically was coming out of the ABA. They had a contract they thought with him, even though Philadelphia drafted him, and it was like they had a back and forth about that. So New York was like, look, we're tied up. We would love to make this deal, but we're tied up with George McGinnis and $4 million, which is nothing today, but it was a lot back then. We're talking the 70s, folks. And then it came down to Washington. And the interesting part about Washington was this was at a time, and I grew up in this era, folks, where Washington was the murder capital of the world. From like maybe the early 70s up until like the early 90s, Washington was not the place to go to. You go there now, it's so gentrified and everything else. It's like everybody wants to go there, you know. But it wasn't like everybody wanted to go there back then, even though you had a lot of high-end politicians. You had some stars back then, and I'm not trying to drag this segment on too long, but I'm trying to give you an idea of how times have changed. In the 70s, the elite crowd and the regular person, it was not uncommon. If you talk to Marvin Gaye, one of the R&B singers, he was from D.C., you know, and one of the older folks was talking to him, man, let's go get a soda from the store or whatever, and let's talk or whatever.
Right now, it's if you see 10 guys looking like they're from Secret Service and
you can't even get close to the people.
Right? They make a. I'm willing to bet you that if you put Aaron Rodgers in a baseball cap on the subway, 100 people would walk by him, and
you know, that's a good
5 people might know who he is.
Yeah.
Just looks like a regular white dude.
Yeah.
Now, Shaq, on the different hand,
yeah, he's so
maybe
big, yeah.
25 people would know who he is because he's so large. They might not know he's Shaquille O'Neal, but they would know, oh, he's a basketball player or something. They would ask him and he would tell them.
Exactly.
Same thing with LeBron James. But Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Tua,
yeah,
Brock Purdy, these guys would sit there. Baker Mayfield, I bet you go to Tampa, Baker Mayfield, he wouldn't even know who he is.
Exactly.
He looks like a regular guy.
Exactly.
So they make a bigger deal of by putting security around him when they don't have to.
Exactly.
So
the elite folks nowadays, as you know, hell, they don't even have to be stars. They could be an Instagram model. You're not even getting close to
right,
that.
it's ridiculous.
You
I
know
think their heads are, oh, I'm so big.
And
Bitch,
you
I
might
don't even know who you are.
Exactly. You have no idea who that person is, and then they got the entourage.
Entourage is the word. I'm like, okay, and what did you do? Oh, well, I said this, and I'm like, and I'm supposed to be impressed because why? Congratulations.
So you have to understand, the media outlets were newspaper, television. That was it. You didn't have social media. You didn't have YouTube like us.
Kim Kardashian took her kids to a basketball game. No, it's so.
Everything that you saw was through one of those two mediums. So it was easier to keep a story like this suppressed. But Marv Albert, the commentator for most of you folks, he was a newspaper writer back then.
No idea. That's one thing I didn't know.
He was the Knicks announcer, and he used to.
Yeah, I know Marv. I'm a great announcer.
Yeah. So anyway, he had published a story about, you know, Kareem wanted to be a Knick, and this was after the fact that the Knicks kind of said, we can't afford you. So Washington was up to bat, and what turned Kareem off, even though he had a house there in D.C., and I didn't even know that. I mean, I saw Kareem in D.C. a couple of times because Wes Unseld, you know, his aunt lived in my neighborhood. And we would see Wes Unseld, Muhammad Ali all the time because both of them were from Louisville, Kentucky. And they would just come through there. And Julia Unseld, that was the aunt's name. Just imagine, and this is a sight that you don't want to ever think about, but imagine Wes Unseld with titties, and that's his aunt. I mean, they looked like twins. She was tall, big, had the afro. He's tall, big, had the afro. And comparison to NBA centers now, Wes Unseld is probably maybe a couple of inches taller than Charles Barkley. He wasn't that tall, maybe like 6'6", 6'7", maybe a couple of inches taller than him. He's 6'5", folks. So, but to give you a perspective. So, anyhow, with all that being said, you know, Kareem wanted to play in DC because of Chocolate City, but then he was worried about his safety and so forth. So he was like, maybe I want to go to LA. And then guess who owned LA, DC fans? Guess who owned the Lakers?
It wasn't Bus.
It was not Bus. It was Jack Kent Cook.
Oh, yeah?
He owned them and the LA Kings. So he was like, I'll give
Did Bus buy the Kings?
Yes.
Okay, so the Bus family trust is still in charge of the Kings too. Now,
I don't know now, but I know that
they were,
deal.
because Jerry bought them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He bought them both off of Jack Kent Cook, and the reason why, for Jack Kent Cook to take a bigger ownership stake in the Redskins. And Jack Kent Cook in the 70s, he was like the big-time owner, big-time promoter, because the first Ali Frazier fight, and that was Jack Kent Cook who set that up, just to give you a perspective. And yes, that's the same Jack Kent Cook that got the Redskin fans those 3 Super Bowls and all of that. That's the same guy.
Before Dan Snyder ruins your memories.
I know. That's a whole nother story, folks.
We'll get there.
And finally, you know, he made the deal with LA, and basically Jack Kent Cook gave him more than what Kareem was asking for. Kareem, you see the numbers. He played 20 years. Him and Magic got together. They won 5 championships together. Been to 9 finals together. See, Lakers have always been the talk of the NBA basically from the beginning. In the 70s, mid to late 70s, they kind of, but...
Was that, because that was between, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry West. That was
Correct.
between. West was done in like 76 or something. There was 2 or 3, I don't know.
Yeah, like the mid to early
Right,
70s.
yeah, he was a 60s guy.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, right, yeah, before they got Kareem there, that 4 or 5 year period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, basically, Kareem could have been the bullet, and that would have been very interesting because I actually think he would have won a little bit more early on with Washington. He would not have won later on, but...
No, but he didn't start winning championships until Magic came along in Los Angeles.
Exactly, because the team wasn't
right,
that good.
But when he was in his prime, when he was 25, 26 years old, right when he got traded there, let's just say it was 75, he could have won 3-4 championships off the bat there before 1980.
Yeah.
And then 1980 on, he wouldn't have won anything. But he won a lot later into his 30s and almost into his 40s because of Magic and James Worthy and right.
And see, Washington had more of a deeper team because of Unseld and, of course...
Wasn't it Manute Bol?
Manute Bol didn't come until like the mid-'80s.
Okay.
Because him and Muggsy Bogues
Yes,
drafted together.
Yep.
They had the tallest NBA player and the shortest NBA player in the same draft.
Yep.
So you had Elvin Hayes and different pieces there in Washington. So I could have easily seen just that very season, they would have won probably 3-4 titles there in Washington. So imagine how that would have been with Kareem in the jersey of the Washington Bullets.
And how does it change the history of are the Bullets still around as the Bullets?
Yeah, and
You know,
then what would happen to the Lakers? They let's just say they still got Magic, but who would have been that center?
Right, you've got you look at the Lakers. I think are still where they are, even without they're the Lakers.
Exactly.
But the Bullets, championships bring money because championships bring fans.
And you know who eliminated the Spurs from the playoffs more than any other team? The Washington Bullets. Now, look it up. I mean, every time they went in the playoffs, they would get rid of the Spurs every time. They hated seeing them coming and so forth. Little known fact. So, but that's my history for this week. Talking about Kareem, we're going to talk about our top 5 Hall of Fame coaches next. We're back, and we're going to give our top 5 head coaches of all time, the GOATs of the NFL.
I like this segment. When you texted it to me yesterday when we were talking about this, I like this segment. It just hit me now. I like the segment because I don't think a lot of people, at least I haven't seen, I see who's the greatest quarterback, who's the greatest basketball player of all time, who's the greatest receiver, you see who's the greatest whatever.
Exactly.
You don't see, I don't think coaches get enough credit.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm interested to talk about this segment.
Now, I'm going to say both of our number ones, and I'm presuming this is your number one, is Lombardi. And Lombardi, Vince Lombardi, I look at it like this. His career was actually cut short.
Yeah.
Because he got burnt out in Green Bay. He won how many titles there? 4, 5?
And I will say this. So, ignore the rain we're going to hear here in the aluminum roof.
I know. That's why I was talking a little bit fast, hoping.
Shit.
Yeah.
NFL, so before the Super Bowl was made, the NFL had the championship game.
Exactly.
I still count it as winning the championship.
Yeah.
They say, well, the Vikings have never won a Super Bowl. I don't give a shit. If you won a championship, you won a championship.
Exactly.
So they try to discredit the Packers. The Packers have the most championships of all time. Well, they say they don't count as much as this. They count just as much as the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't have a stupid name. It's still the championship game. It doesn't matter what you call it.
He won the first Super Bowl, so...
Right. He won the first 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But championships are equal to Super Bowls. Are you in agreement with
Yeah,
that? Okay.
Definitely.
All right, continue.
Definitely.
Sorry. Ignore the rain. We'll try to talk over it and hope it doesn't mess up
It's
the
a
video.
metal roof in here, folks, so...
We're too poor.
Yeah.
If you want to donate to the channel and buy some merch, we can get a new roof.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, we'll try to talk over
Plus,
it.
it's Florida, folks. There's a lot of metal roofs in Florida.
It doesn't matter when we do this, but we're going to try to talk loud and get through it. And if you have some problems, we do apologize.
So, anyway, with Lombardi, I think he has 5 or 6 championships. I'm going to say 5.
Ice Bowl, for sure.
Ice Bowl.
Yeah, so there's 3 I can think of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway, sorry.
And, you know, they used to be under the Giants. Both him and Tom Landry. Vince Lombardi was the offensive coordinator. Tom Landry was the defensive coordinator. And that's where the Landry-Lombardi thing comes off. All right? So, is that your number one, or is
That's
that...
mine. Yeah, I mean, he's just done... Coaching-wise, he's just done so much, and then influence-wise, the Super Bowl is named after him now as the Lombardi Trophy. Lombardi Avenue is in Green Bay. There's he's everywhere. He's number 1 for me.
And one last footnote to Lombardi. He took over the Redskins, the Washington Redskins. And I'm going to tell you, that team was awful, but he had them playoff ready. They actually had a winning record. He died of cancer after that season. Had he lived, there's a potential, and I know this is a Washington-centric podcast all of a sudden, and it's unintentional, trust me. But the Redskins could have actually won earlier. It would have been interesting to see in 1972, had Lombardi been the coach, would the Dolphins have won that Super Bowl? Because that's Lombardi's boys that's out there
You sitting
playing.
here trying to convert people over to Washington.
I am not converted.
You're going to be sitting over here in an Ovechkin jersey talking about the Capitals.
I am not converted anybody to anything, but I I had to bring out that point because that was Lombardi's team.
It is a good point. It is a very,
So, my next one, and I don't know if this is his number 2, but it's definitely mine. And it's going to be controversial, folks, but I have to give it to Belichick, you know? And one of the reasons why I have to give Belichick that credit, I give him credit for the New York Giants as well as the New England.
Forget about that.
He was the defensive coordinator when the Giants won those 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, he had the greatest defensive player of all time. First of all, that front 7, he put that scheme together. He had to get other guys to fit with what Lawrence Taylor was going to do. So I give him a lot of credit for that. Then when he went to the Patriots, yes, he got Tom Brady and all that, but Tom Brady is not the whole team by himself.
No, because even I don't like Belichick. Never have. I think he's a crabby old bastard. I think he's a prick. Plain and simple, he's a dick.
Do you like him in McAfee, though? He seems to have a lot of personality.
Yeah, I do now. But you cannot take away, yes, he had Brady, but he always had his teams ready to go. And he seemed to elevate players who weren't really that good.
Right.
Look at guys like Teddy Brisky was talented, but Teddy Brisky would not have been as good as he was if he weren't in New England.
Exactly.
People also forget, they talk about, he sucked after Brady left. Right, the team sucked after Brady left. It's not, you can account that to Belichick or not, but you also, and if I'm wrong, who was the head coach when they went to the Super Bowl with Bledsoe?
That was Bill Parcells.
That's what I thought so, right?
Yeah. But Belichick was a defensive coordinator, so.
Right. So, he was there. He wasn't the head coach, but he won 6 Super Bowls. When you win 6 Super Bowls, I don't care what you say, geez, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. He's not in my top 5 just because I don't like him and I'm biased, and it's my top 5.
Right.
But I'm not going to say you're wrong in putting him where you did.
My number 3, and everybody's going to be like, oh, man, stop jerking off to Washington. It's, Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
Because here's my reasoning for Joe Gibbs.
Here we go. Okay.
Joe Gibbs took 3 different quarterbacks, technically 4, to the Super Bowl and won 3 of those 4 Super Bowls. Okay? He had Theismann the first 2 years. Theismann, they got to a point with Theismann like, okay, he's going to be a bust. Theismann used to be a punter, a kick returner, and a quarterback.
Do you think Joe Theismann's career would have been different if he hadn't broken his leg? No.
I mean, because he was on a downslide anyway when he broke his leg. Okay. I remember that season. And see, one of those quarterbacks that took over for Theismann after that game was Jay Schrader. I never forgot a name. And Jay Schrader, that season that they went to their 3rd Super Bowl, because they lost to the Raiders after they beat Miami.
The Raiders!
I know. And Doug Williams had won the Super Bowl for him, but Schrader was the one that played that year. Okay, so they went to their 4th Super Bowl with Mark Rippon, and find him in the lineup. He lives down here, by the way. He's in Celebration, Florida. I see him at Publix quite often, and I'm the only one there that knows who he is.
Exactly. Back to the point. Nobody else knows who it is. Just like I was at Universal 2-3 years ago, and I saw Rhea Ripley out in the crowd. Nobody would have. I recognized her anyway.
And see, that's the thing. Not just the quarterbacks, because that's the first thing everybody goes to. In-game adjustments. There was probably better coach that adjusted to the game better than Joe Gibbs. When Lawrence Taylor was blitzing and tearing up Theismann or whoever the
literally,
he was the first coach to implement a 2 or 3 tight end system called the H-back, and basically took almost a wishbone formation, did motion, and got that extra blocker in for Lawrence Taylor. So he wouldn't be going around Joe Jacoby on one end, he wouldn't be going around Raleigh McKenzie on the other end, and so forth. So basically, Joe Gibbs, just his schemes, in-game adjustments, and he would take players that you would never hear of
make winners
and make them winners because he made them a complete unit. that is one of the coaches that Bill Belichick hated the coach against was Gibbs. Tom Landry hated the coach against Gibbs. So, and he's very underrated, and that's the reign, folks. So, real quick, before it gets ridiculous here, and hopefully the sound is coming out.
We're hanging on!
Hopefully the sound is there. My fourth one.
Hold on, folks. You're going to give it.
Alright. Just so you guys can
Get
hear
real
me.
close so you can see all my freckles on. I got a shave on my face here.
Alright. So, my fourth one is going to be Chuck Noll with Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
And he crafted that defense in the 70s. It's still current. He took a quarterback he didn't like personally, Terry Bradshaw.
How can you not like Terry Bradshaw?
I just think it was just a good God. You
What
would
an
do this
ass.
to me right now, right? And I just think it was just a culture conflict between the two. So I would say just the way he handled the Steelers. I know this is ridiculous, eh? The way he handled the Steelers in the 70s, he's on my list as number 4. Number 5 for me is Andy Reid, and it's obvious why he's there.
It doesn't matter where he goes, he wins. He didn't win a Super Bowl in Philadelphia, but he was very, very successful and this close. And then he bumped it over the hump, and he's won how many Super Bowls now in Kansas City? 3 or 4? And even before they got Mahomes, look how good they were with Alex Smith. And Alex Smith was not that great, let's be honest.
Exactly.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was Andy Reid, and maybe I get him confused because they both look like fat walruses, was Andy Reid not under the Holmgren coaching
That's
tree?
what they got him for. Yeah.
Right, in Green Bay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
alright.
Yeah, he was the quarterback's coach.
Exactly, right, in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm not nuts, so he coached Brett Favre.
There you
I'm
go.
not crazy. Okay, alright.
There you go. That's how
I
I
like
got the
the
job at
list.
Philly.
You put a couple guys in there that I'm not going to put in there, but I respect it because you gave good reasoning as to why they're in your list.
Exactly.
Okay,
What
so
about
my
you?
number 1 is Lombardi. He already said all my reasons as to why.
Right.
My number 2, this might be a little high, but I'm going to put him there anyway. I'm putting Bill Walsh.
Okay.
He won 4 Super Bowls with the Niners, and he is the founder of a lot of the offenses you see today. He founded the West Coast offense. And I put, my list is more, what is your influence in today's game?
Right.
And how many, and how successful were you?
Right.
He's a big influence guy, that's why he's in there. Maybe not number 2 is a little high, I just threw a guy. I picked a name, I threw a guy.
Right.
But Lombardi's in there, again, because of the influence. My number 3, I'm going to go Tom Landry. We just talked about Lombardi Landry. Again, the influence. He's behind the 4-3 defense.
Correct.
The modern day defense you see today was Tom Landry. And again, he won Super Bowls, he won lots of football games.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, the guy who won the most football games, Don Shula.
There you go.
And I wasn't going to put him in there because you can win a lot of football games. Congratulations. If you don't win any Super Bowls, anything, I'm not putting you in there. But because he has the most wins of all time, and because he's still the only team, understands only 14 games, undefeated season in 72, 14-0, the only team to ever do that, I'm putting him at 4. And at 5, just because of, it depends, it remains to be seen where this list, maybe in 5 years, he might start to jump up the list if he has Mahomes. It's Andy Reid.
Yeah.
If they win 3 more Super Bowls, he's going to go from 5 to 3 or 2. He could jump. But my list is more subjective of, you can put guys wherever you want. It doesn't have to be Walsh, Landry, Shula, Reid. You can mix those guys. You can put Landry at 2. You can but that's just the way I see it, as per me. Reid hasn't done, now if Reid had won a Super Bowl in Philly, he'd be above Shula for me.
Yeah.
But it's all subjective, but that's my list.
And you guys might have honorable mentions.
Yeah, for me, obviously Belichick is an honorable mention. You got to put him in there.
I mean, some people might say, well, Parcells, where's Parcells?
Right, I'm not against, I don't think he's top 5, but he's in the conversation at 7 or 8.
Exactly.
You know, and feel free to leave us your top 5 in the comment section below. I'll say that.
So the rain is going to make us get the
We're
hell out of
take
here.
a little rain out, and thank you. We apologize for last couple weeks ago. Our video was extremely long, so we thank you for sticking with us. This one hopefully was a little shorter.
You guys take care of yourselves, and we'll check you out on the next go round.
We'll see you after 2 full weeks of the NFL. Enjoy your football.
Peace.